Okay, so in this orientation, I'm going to explain to you how our strategic documents work for clients, and how to use them in relationship to your media buying activities. So, you know, what we do when we onboard a client is we'll build a profile for them, um, for the consumer avatar. We'll do competitive research. We'll actually gather data and create a targeting summary, like an educated overview of like the client's assets, as far as like if they have data sources to create lookalike audiences from, if we're going to use detailed targeting options, what kind of options might work really best. We try to sort a lot of that out for you in advance, um, so you can make some really easy decisions around that. Um, and then also, we do mock-ups and approvals with clients. Now, the reason I want to go over this is because you want to understand in a general way kind of how things work. And so I'm going to go ahead and just transition here to this file of these documents and kind of go through them one at a time with you. So the first one that we start out with is the consumer profile. So this is the template that we use, and basically what you'll see is we're going to put together their psychographics, behavior, um, their avatar's main focus, pain points, critical questions, and then the main solution offered. So this is kind of important to understand what our client does for their avatar, right? So that you get a good understanding of this. Now, this is actually a pretty short document. You're looking at probably 3 or 4 pages um, that you can scan. Make sure you scan these. When you take on a client, open this document and go over it. You're probably going to be reviewing it for maybe 10 minutes or less, even. You should be at a point as a professional, especially as a media buyer with an understanding of marketing, where you can read through this kind of stuff and understand the avatar fairly quickly. Okay, so it is important. The next phase is the competitive analysis, where we put together kind of the top competitors in their industry, who they are, but basically who those people are, what kind of strategies they might use, and what does their content look like, right? And what's their market position, and what's like kind of some recommendations. What you'll also see in these documents is a swipe file of ads, that there's actually ads inside of here that we found that their competitors are running. So this is really good for you to take 10 minutes again to look at when you're first trying to work with a client and say, oh, okay, this is kind of what the successful ads in the marketplace look like. Now, the ads that we pull into the competitive analysis are ads that have been running for 2 months or longer and are still active. And so we know when we did our research that those ads are good ads to look at, and say, okay, here are some successful examples in the marketplace. Okay, so you'll want to take 10 minutes to review the competitive analysis, look at some of those ads from the swipe file, to understand what their industry looks like from a successful advertising standpoint. Next, we have a creative direction set up where we build out generally what we want their creative direction to be. It involves their website, their branding. This is something that you'll want to just review. There's some ideas here, some creative ideas. You don't have to review these in detail, but there's going to be kind of like some rough outlines, maybe for video ads and that sort of thing, that we share with the client to try to get them to produce some organic ads, try to get them fired up as well. And some final notes where you may see some details about maybe that client's brand. There may be creative direction for their brand that the client is requesting that we adhere to. From industry to industry, this creative direction report is going to have some things that are specific for certain industries, because like in some industries like Medicare, or like lawyers, like car crash lawyers, or like political, sometimes we get political clients. The creative direction is really important to review, because there are things that you want to be aware of for the creative direction where you have boundaries and guidelines. So again, the creative direction document, you probably won't have to even take as long as the other ones. But you do want to read through it, look at the final notes on it, and kind of see, scan it for like what's important to the client. Okay. So once these are set up, we set up a targeting strategy, and the targeting strategy is built out so that we have a good path forward. Now, this is all of these documents are for your reference. It's for you to use to do your job better autonomously. I do want you to work autonomously, as I explained in the first orientation. So you'll see with a targeting summary, what you're going to get is a checklist where we say, okay, does the client have any of these assets? Because you can create lookalike audiences from their Facebook following, their email list, their website traffic. Once we have it pixeled, we're tracking data. We can do like page view lookalike audiences. The best is a customer list. Usually, if we have a customer list, where you can create what's called a value-added lookalike audience, where you check that box to say, hey, I want a value-added lookalike audience, which is different. The spreadsheet that you upload has a column in it normally that has the amount of money that their customers spent with them in addition to the customer data. And those are usually more complete data sets that create more accurate and better performing lookalike audiences. And obviously these sample sizes have to be like in these ranges to be effective. Value-added lookalike audience needs a customer list of 500 or more. Anyway, email marketing list for lookalike, it can be okay sometimes, but they'd need 500 or more. I like them to be around 1,000. With the followers, I've found that they need to have like 1,000 or more, usually. And they need to not be fake followers, because sometimes people buy fake followers on Instagram. So we usually kind of clarify that with the client. And that's why it's important for you to actually review the discovery call. Okay. When you take on a client, I know that you're going to take time to review these documents and then review the discovery call. You need to watch the recording of the discovery call, and you could watch it at like 1.2 or 1.5 times speed to speed it up if you need to. But you need to watch that call, because in the discovery, that's usually where I'm meeting with the client and I'm doing their initial consultation or their second consultation. And I actually build out the strategy with the client and cover a lot of this stuff with them on the call. Okay, like I'll ask them. If I see that they have a lot of Instagram followers, I'll ask them, hey, are those real followers or did you buy them? So it is important when you're reviewing a new client, not only to review these documents, watch the discovery call. If it's a longer discovery call, like if it took an hour, that's fine. I totally get it. You're going to need to bill me for that and watch that call, but you got to watch the discovery call, because that is how you're going to really get a deep understanding of the client. Okay. These documents are very helpful. You do need to take the time to review them. They don't take a lot of time to review, but you need to watch the discovery call when you take on a client. You'll find that in their Google Drive folder. I'm going to give you an example of an actual client to review this stuff, so you can see what it looks like for an actual client when you go to review their folder. But with this actual targeting summary, past like their assets of creating lookalike audiences, detailed targeting testing is going to be a list. We provide you with a list of possible detailed targeting options, including behaviors, demographics, gender, because sometimes some companies only sell to like women, some companies only sell to men, general age ranges, general geographic location. Now, you have to keep in mind that these are recommendations, and usually we generate 5 to 10 of these for you. That doesn't mean you're going to test all of them. It usually means you're going to test like maybe 2 or 3, depending on the budget. Obviously, you have to take the budget into consideration. And you might not test any of them. If you have several lookalike options that are valid, like if you have a customer list, a big email list, several big followings on here, you might just run lookalike audience testing to start out with. And generally speaking, with clients, as you scale budgets up now, with Meta, you try to transition to broad targeting. So you start out with these detailed targeting options, lookalike audiences. And usually in an advantage budget campaign, you run an option on an ad set with broad targeting with winning creatives. So it can start learning and it can start optimizing on a broad targeting option where there are no targeting options. There's no lookalike audience. There's no detailed targeting options. We literally just run it in the geographic area, whether it's at a national level or if they are a local advertiser, make sure it's localized. Make sure you set that location. This is another important thing for you to pay attention to. Sometimes when we generate these, you'll get location recommendations that are not applicable. You might say, oh, run ads in like New York City and Los Angeles, whatever, when really, you're just running them at a national level. Okay. That's why you have to be autonomous with this stuff and make good decisions as a media buyer. And then sometimes they are a local advertiser. Pay attention to who the client is. If they only advertise in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, let's say, make sure that's where your targeting is set up. We've had it happen in the past with other media buyers, and I've seen it happen in other accounts that I take over, like when I take over an account that somebody else was managing from like a different company, and the client comes on board with us because they want professional management, and they were running ads for the client at a national level when you're talking about a client that's operating in like one city and they're a local advertiser. So pay very close attention to geographic location and targeting. And then, as far as retargeting goes, what we found is that it does pay. It is good to have more specific retargeting options as budgets get much bigger. Once your budget size starts getting up into that $10,000 range, then isolating certain types of retargeting options, like maybe add to cart for e-commerce people, just certain video views for top of funnel ads or cold traffic ads that are videos, and then retargeting people that watch those maybe for 50% or more of the video. Specific retargeting strategies like that really only start, I would say, coming into play when you get into the higher budget area for a small business, like $10,000. Otherwise, like below that, usually just aggregate middle of funnel retargeting options. Just put all of them into one bucket. And the algorithm with targeting on Meta has become very advanced. And usually it just figures out who to prioritize for you. It will figure out who, if you just put website page views in there and it's pixeled, it will know kind of who's adding to cart and who's viewing content on the website, who saw an ad or who actually went to the website, and it'll prioritize ads based on that when you aggregate them together. Because it's trying to optimize performance, and it is optimizing based on a lot of different behavioral touch points, including actions on the website when it's pixeled. So generally speaking, for retargeting, what we've found to work very well and actually getting higher return on ad spend for our clients is to aggregate retargeting options into a bigger sample size. So you have like their email list, you have their page visitors, you have their buyers, you have the website visitors, the Facebook account, the Facebook followers, and the Instagram followers all in one bucket. Okay. That seems to work pretty well under $10,000 at the time of this recording. Obviously, this stuff changes on an ongoing basis, so I'll try to update it if it does. But generally speaking, for the retargeting campaigns we set up, under $10,000, we usually just have one retargeting campaign running with aggregated targets, and it usually outperforms the cold traffic one. And if it doesn't, obviously, like, you need to make changes, and you need to either stop it or change the strategy, do different tests on it. Every account is different, okay? Every client is different, and that's why it's important for you to review these documents, review the discovery call, because, there are general things that do work with Facebook advertising, but a lot of Facebook advertising is not hard and fast. A lot of it varies from client to client. Now, you're going to see that we have these copywriting documents. There's 3 aspects to copywriting on Facebook ads. There's going to be the primary text, which is going to be, the main part of the copywriting. There's going to be the headline, right, which is the headline next to the call to action button below the creative. Then there's a description text, which sometimes you might test or sometimes you might not use at all. But what you'll see is that when we provide you with copywriting for the client, we're going to provide you with initial strategies. Initial creative strategies that you can use, okay, to test based on frameworks. So we have copywriting strategies based on psychological selling frameworks, to test based on the client and what's going to work well for them. So these are thought out copywriting strategies specifically customized for the client for you to test. And as you do this testing, as time goes on, you're going to come back to do a KPI validation, and you're actually going to record in this document, oh, these are the headlines that are working, and you just copy them and paste them into this document with the KPI attached to it. So, we got this headline that's working really well, or this primary text that's working really well. It has a 5 times ROAS. Great. We're going to pop it in here. You're going to copy it and paste it here. We want to track that so that you can create other variations of that. So you can create other variations of that to optimize it, test it, and just make it better and better and better. And this is the creative testing process for copywriting. So we track them. So you want to pay attention to, the basic outline here of like what involves the headline tracker, like ad headlines generally limited to 40 characters before being cut off. With headlines, so if your headline's more than 40 characters, a lot of times it just gets cut off and people can't even read your whole headline, right? The first 125 characters of the primary text are generally what people see first. Okay, so you prioritize that. You got to hook people in the first 125 characters of a Facebook ad or Instagram ad. Description text is generally 25 characters will be displayed. A lot of times people run ads without description text, just to go ahead and see if it works better. Like you can test it. You could run ads with no description text and then with description text. It's not as impactful, I would say. Description text, we don't really see as big of an impact on conversions with that. So that's how we optimize copywriting and track it over time with those documents. And I'll have a straight line task for you to follow on that, no problem. And then finally, there is a mock-up document for onboarding clients. We go through a mock-up phase with clients for like bigger creative projects when we create UGC or user-generated content for them. And also for when we launch client accounts. Basically, we want to make sure that they kind of approve of our initial ads. Like when we go to put the ads together for them, we say, hey, this is generally what an ad looks like. This is how the autonomy of the ad is for the client. And then we go ahead and lay it out. We'll lay out the video creative, the primary text, the copywriting, like the headline, the call to action, right? And we explain all of it to the client so they know exactly what we're going to publish for them. And we want to get publishing approval usually when we launch ads for clients, so that they know that, we have a strategy to move forward. Once we have publishing approval from the client, generally speaking, as you do creative testing, you don't need approval from the client going forward. I just expect you to create better copywriting through the process I have in place and to just launch new creatives and test them properly. Because we do work with the client to build out new creatives, get them to provide us with more media. And you'll be looking to see if they post organic content as well that you can go in and just simply use as an ad sometimes. Sometimes this is just low-hanging fruit where you see a post that they have that actually has really good organic traction, like it got a lot of likes, a lot of shares. Use it as an ad a lot of times. You can go in and just use that. The way our contracts are structured with our clients, we have approval to publish for them autonomously. But we like to do a general mock-up to begin with and kind of make sure we're going in the right direction with the client. On an ongoing basis, you're authorized to go ahead and publish ads for testing purposes and for scaling purposes without having to approve everything with the client, obviously. Now, there are times, as we're publishing at volume with clients where we're launching more ads, launching new creatives and things like this, that the client may come to us and say, especially if the client has like a team where they have like a marketing manager or there's other people working on the account and the owner comes in and sees something, but we are working with the marketing manager on it. And the owner says, hey, I want you to take this ad down right away. Doesn't represent our brand, or, hey, I don't like the way this thing says this or that. And basically you'll just need to go in and change it. Unless it's like a performing ad and like, let them know like, hey, if I turn this ad off, it's going to kill like 50% of your sales or something. Do you really want me to do it? And wait to tell them it's outside of best practice and see if they still want to do it. But basically, That's the mock-up document. So you want to look at the mock-ups. Now, when you get media in the mock-up, it should already be uploaded in the ad account for you. It's actually the job of our general VA in the CSR, the client success rep, to ensure that media like video files and graphic design, it's already uploaded in the ad account because they have access to the ad account. It should already be uploaded for you. I don't want you sitting and waiting for media to upload and doing like downloading, and I'm just paying you to do media buying when you're actually just waiting for media to upload. So if you notice, like you get a mock-up and you're launching a client account, or like you get provided media and it's just like not in the ad account, go ahead and upload it for time's sake to get the process moving forward, to make sure you're still pushing the media buying forward, but give feedback to the CSR and the general VA and let them know, hey, in my onboarding, in my orientation, Chris said that you guys upload the media preemptively. So can you please do that in the future? It's okay to say that, like, because they get busy, they might forget. And it's important that they're doing that for you. So you're not just sitting waiting for media to download into the ad account. I don't want that happening at all. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and give you an example of an actual client. So here is a unique client. This is a trucking company. So this is what the file looks like. You should have access to this Google Drive folder. If you don't, for some reason, make sure you update the general VA to give you access to your client's Google Drive folder, because it has so much important stuff in here that you need to review. The first thing is you'll see there's a tracker that you're going to check on a regular basis. That basically just tracks special promotions, special ad requests that the client has to fill out in advance, so that you can launch ads for them. And we give a timeline turnaround for them, so when what the promotion is, when it starts, when it ends, right? What the details are, and then if they uploaded media or something like that, right? What the budget is for it. Generally speaking, we tell clients, hey, if you do special promotions or special ads, like maybe they're running a Black Friday ad or something like that, set a budget aside for it that is separate from the budget that we run for your ongoing ads. Because a lot of times clients are like, well, can we just stop the other ad and then start this one and then start the other one? And we explain to clients, hey, well, that hurts the learning phases. It hurts your performance. It's better to run campaigns on an ongoing basis and allocate new budgets for new promotions. And that's a great way to scale accounts too, is to encourage these special promotion ads so that we're running more ads and spending more money on advertising for our clients and getting more action and getting more success for them. Okay. So you'll see there's a task that reoccurs before you can click up to just like open that and check it. In addition to some other stuff, you'll see me put together a general profile for a brief on the client, who they are, where their Google Drive folder is, this kind of stuff here as far as like their data tracking, and then some details around the campaign, that sort of thing. So, so it's important to just kind of like scroll through that real quick. And then generally speaking, you're going to put together an ad account audit for the client. Initially, when we go ahead and onboard them. And the initial ad audit is actually the same process as when you do a monthly ad audit, where you're auditing their ad account. It's an analytics audit, so you're doing it for the previous month and then kind of putting a plan forward for the next month. And you do that simply by recording a Loom video and then taking the transcript from that Loom video and then taking the data from the campaign levels, the ad set levels, and the ad levels. And then you actually paste a special prompt that I've created for ChatGPT. It's a super prompt. And you attach a template for the analytics report, and you paste the transcript from your Loom overview that you made just talking about the account with the data, and it will generate a very well laid out report for you that you simply just review and then go ahead and share with the client. Actually, you'll convert it into a PDF and you'll share it with the client's email address. And again, there's no two-way communication allowed with clients. I don't want you communicating with the client, but when you do your monthly analytics report, because you're the one creating it, I am going to have you create it into a PDF and then share it to the client's email address. And you'll see there's a client profile document in ClickUp that has the client's email address, and you can simply share that PDF with them. If they have a team of people, like if they're a marketing department, share it with those emails in that team, okay? And it's important that we're pushing that forward, that communication forward with them, so that they are seeing these analytics reports and seeing your budget recommendations and your recommendations around the budget. So you can say, hey, we need to be spending more in this area. We need to maybe throttle spending over here, do some more testing, But this is how you're going to create that technical communication to let the client know this is the direction you want to go in to start scaling the account, because ultimately your goal is to scale them to 10K and above, or even 25K and above. So in ad spend, and you have to justify it. And so that's done through the analytics report once a month. And again, I have a very straight line process for it. When we onboard clients, there's an initial audit done here like this. So we can see it. Swipe folder is like the creatives. So see there's a client uploads folder. And they have, this is where the clients will upload their customer lists. You can create lookalike audiences from these. Now, again, like with creatives, it's up to the CSR, the client success rep, to go ahead and create the lookalike audiences for you in advance when they onboard a client. So just check Audience Manager and you'll see sometimes these are already created for you. Okay. But if you see data sets here, like sometimes the client adds this stuff after the fact and there's new client data to create lookalike audiences out of, feel free to do that. Okay. If the CSR has not already done that. So just double check. You'll see there's images. We have some images in here, that the client will probably upload of like trucks and things like that. Their logo, it's not uncommon. They got video files. You can create ads out of these. Feel free to test some of these if you see that they uploaded their own ads. Sometimes they just have ads that they used on another platform like TikTok or something that tested really well. And you can just simply, if the client uploaded it, you can run it as an ad, pretty much is what they're saying. Just make sure it doesn't look like crap. You can also submit things to creative, so you can talk to our CSR. And we have a creative team. And you can, and the CSR pushes creative projects forward on a regular basis. But specifically, if you see something in the video or the images or creatives that you think could be really good, go ahead and make sure to like submit a request to creative and say, hey, can we get this into a real style, ad with pop-up captions? Make sure you have captions on stuff, because 15% of ads are actually played with sound. So captions are very important. Pop-up captions are almost a lot better because they're more eye-catching. In the swipe folder, you also see meeting recordings. This is going to be where you'll find discovery calls with the client. Generally speaking, you'll want to look for the discovery call. Now, a lot of times, like this one here, are me actually meeting with the client. Where it says client support, that's going to be like their onboarding call. Like this one, you can see these are dated because they're from Zoom. So this one is from 0822. This one's from 0812. So 0822 is probably going to be more of like, you want to do the one that I did that's like later on. And you can see here, it's about a half an hour call. Sometimes I'm just waiting for them to get on the call too. So just, but you can see here, I'm talking to her about strategy, and kind of laying out what we're going to do to move forward. And you want to be in on this stuff, the conversation I had. And really, it's a quick call. Again, you can click the settings here and you can do playback speed, and you could bump it like to 125 or 1.5 or something. So, there's some conversation there. You might want to review that. If you do want to review it, if you're taking on a new client, make sure you find my consulting call with the client. Go ahead and review that. The onboarding call, if you feel like you need to go through it for some reason, feel free to, but it's not necessary really. Onboarding calls are very technical in nature. Like, we're usually just getting on the call with the client, maybe asking them some questions to do more complete research to get the strategic documents in line. But a lot of it is just us telling the client what to click to invite us into their business manager, getting permissions worked out for installing their pixel properly and stuff like that. It's really not necessary. Mostly what you'll be interested in is my discovery call with the client, where we talk about their business, how the advertising will affect their business, what strategies are going to be good for their business. Okay, you don't want to miss any of that stuff. I do the same thing with the CSR. They're supposed to review that call as well, so everybody really understands the client on a detailed level, and also so we're not asking redundant questions. We don't want to be asking questions to a client that we've already asked them. Okay, it's highly unprofessional, and it shows a lack of customer service and a lack of client service when a client or a customer is asked the same thing multiple times. And so the best way to avoid that in a high quality organization is a high attention to documentation and a high attention to detail and review of client background and data to have a deep understanding of the client. Okay, so documenting the client properly, and then also reviewing the documentation of the client properly. All right, so that's a swipe folder. There's going to be creatives in here. These are the creatives that we generally mock up for the client. Top of funnel creatives are going to be for cold traffic. Middle of funnel is like what we mock up for retargeting. Then there might be some other creatives here as well. Feel free to jump in there, pull creatives out if you need to. Again, hopefully a lot of that stuff's uploaded for you. If not, you can jump in here to upload it and just shoot a note to the CSR and say, hey, can you please upload stuff for me in the future? Copywriting is going to be where you're going to have your top of funnel cold traffic copywriting, middle funnel retargeting copywriting. The copywriting is different for these different people because of how we speak to them, right? So you'll see this is a completed, here's a completed primary text tracker. And so we're giving you different frameworks to use. So for this company, they sell trucks, basically, and parts for trucks. So, first we're going to say, hey, here's a personalized service built for efficiency. Here's a why choose Cumberland. So these are different frameworks, copywriting frameworks. And you'll see what we do is we actually use a special text editor tool called Fancy Text Generator to do an HTML bolding of the text in the first 125 characters to hook people a lot better. Just statistically, it's shown that people are going to see those first 125 characters, and if we bold that first text, it hooks them a lot better. And so these are some different variations for you to run. These different variations, and then the trackers at the bottom. So as you would run these, you'd come in here and track what's happening. And if you want to iterate and test other frameworks, feel free to do so. Just make sure that you're tracking them. So just make sure you're saying, okay, well, we're going to add another variation of a framework in here, and then say what that framework is, basically, like what's it doing. Are they ready to upgrade? That sort of thing. So, because you'll see here, this is the first part of the primary text, and then here's the part to add to the copywriting. Below, there's some bullet points there to test. So, and again, these are recommendations as well. Like whatever's in the mock-up, you can go ahead and approve. You can go ahead and run what's approved in the mock-up for the client. But as you're running ads, you're going to need to make changes to copywriting based on the numbers and statistics you're seeing, and you have autonomy to do that. Just make sure that you are updating these trackers so we know what's working, what's not working. What you're testing and what's actually working, because that's the biggest thing with copywriting is like having a hypothesis of what works, and maybe it works for a different client somewhere else or in a different industry, but you actually have to test it and then put the numbers, the KPI to it, and say, okay, based on the click-through rate, this has a higher unique click-through rate, so we're going to kind of run with this. Or maybe this one has better down-funnel metrics, like maybe this headline is resulting in more leads. The unique click-through rate is like pretty high, but it's not as high as the other ones. But the leads coming through are much higher because we're getting better quality traffic, right? So you want to give a KPI I'm just saying it could be different KPIs, but you need to give a KPI validation for why you believe a piece of copywriting is working. And obviously, you can use the breakdown tool in Ads Manager to look at text, dynamic images used, or any of the creatives used, and things like that, or headlines, to see. So, and here are some different headlines: drive business success, top performance every mile, stuff like this, right? So, that's the copywriting folder, strategic document swag folder. And this is generally what you're going to see inside of a client folder as an example. So now I've covered those documents for you, covered, getting into a client. So you have a good understanding of that. And we are ready to rock and roll and get to work on some media buying. All right, thanks.